just messing. Good afternoon, and good afternoon. So we are going to have another gear review, and what's going to be it's about? It's about this lens. So what's this lens is? It's Nikon 200-500, 5.6 constant aperture E-type. It's an E-type glass EDVR. Why this lens? Why we are not going to talk about any other lens? Well, let me tell you why this. Before I tell you about this lens, how I got this lens, I want to tell you the story so you will get to know why this lens is so special. We have so many contenders about this lens, which are Sigma 150 to 600. Then we have Tamron 150 to 600. Then we have Sigma new 60 to 600. All right, which was the replacement of 150 to 600, right? But we have this lens from Nikon 200 to 500. Before 60 to 600 was launched, or Tamron 150 to 600 was launched, I was having this 150 to 600 contemporary lens from Sigma. I bought this lens and I was very happy. I was having that lens 150 to 600 and this lens 200 to 500. So I gave priority of additional 100 mm to Sigma. I said, well, it's better to go instead of 500, it's better to go with 600. You can have more reach. So I went with 150 to 600 contemporary lens from Sigma. I bought that lens and I started using it. And even after 2-3 months, I was shooting. It was slow. Obviously, at the price point it was given, it you can expect it. It was slow. But when I was shooting bird photography at Kudra Lake, that's where I found a problem. When I came with the shots, I put into the computer and I started watching them, the background, and this is where I pissed off, because the background of the bird which I was shooting is not exactly what the lens represents. It was something else totally, and I was like, what the hell? There was bushes behind the bird. The image rendition should be of the bushes. It was yellowish kind of a bushes, but it wasn't. The lens was not able to render that, and that's where I got pissed off. And I start comparing with other lenses. I start comparing with this 200 to 500, and then at that time, Tamron 150 to 600 was launched. I would start comparing with that, and I was like, okay. And I start having the issues of 150 to 600. It was average lens, average sharp, not something extraordinary about that lens. So I just decided to sold that lens. I said I don't need that lens because that lens turned me off immediately. So I sold that lens, and half the price. I was so angry about that lens. I sold at half a price. I did, because I just want to get rid of. Then I ordered this lens. $200 to 500, 5.6 EVR. ADVR. So what's this special about this lens? First off, the very first thing about this lens, it's VR. Oh man. The shutter speed, if you are zooming it at 500 mm, you see it's going big, it's going out of the screen now. This is 500, so this is 500, this is 200, and this is 500. So at 500, the lens shakes a lot, right? It shakes a lot. At this focal length, you drop your shutter speed to 1/30th or 1/40th, or let's say 1/50th of the second. I shot at 1/40th, 1/40. So I dropped my shutter speed to 1/40th at 500 ml. alright, 500mm with VR function on, and I got tech sharp image. Tech sharp image at 500 ml, alright, at 500 mm I mean, and 1/40th of the shutter speed. Somebody told me that you can get 1/30th of the shutter speed tech sharp images, but I tried it, I wasn't able to, and I was shooting handheld, so I was put this thing on the camera, and I was like, check. So it was not able to. I was not able to 1/30th. I was able to shoot at 1/40th. I was so impressed with its VR. I guess that was the best VR that I had ever experienced. The best VR function from any lens. If you see this, let me try. That's your manual and autofocus. Then we have this fully autofocus, so you can from nearest to the farthest, and then we have 5 meter to infinity. So it means that the lens, if you switch to this part, the lens is not going to hunt close focus. It will only hunt between 5 meters to infinity. But I switch to full, so I want to experience everything. Then we have the VR function, VR on and off. Then this is the most interesting button. This is called sports and normal. So what's normal, what's sports? In normal, if you have any stationary object, it shoots at normal if you're shooting it. But if you are shooting any sports, a sports guy or athlete which, running haphazard left or right or front and back, that's where you have to activate sports mode, right? By the way, the VR of this lens only works in one direction. It's not like up and down, left and right. For example, if I'm shooting in panning, right? I'm shooting in panning left or right. So the VR will work only up and down. It will compensate the variation which you are going to do up and down, not left and right, because left and right it only works like that. So that's about this lens. So for me this lens is a bargain. If you are into bird action photography, wildlife photography, it's a bargain. It's $1,300 lens, $1,300, somewhere nearby, and it gives you the best optical performance. And trust me when I say this, best optical performance at this price of point, actually more than you are getting at this point of point, $1,300. You will get better optical performance from any other lens out there from this lens at $1,300 price point, including one of the best, actually not one of the best, but best VR from this lens is 4.5 stops VR function, which you can get from this lens. Of course, there is the new which gives you 5.5, but you're talking about $10,000, right? This is $1,300. See, by the way, its autofocus acquisition, it's average. It's not fast. Don't expect to behave it like $10,000 or $20,000 autofocus lens. I'm talking about 180 to 400 f4 lens, which is $9,900 something dollars. That lens with 1.4 teleconverter built in, if you enable that 1.4 teleconverter built in, that lens, it comes equivalent to this lens. It comes like 253 mm to 560 mm, which is equal to this, and aperture after enabling 5.6, which is also happens to this lens 5.6. But that lens, $10,000 autofocus speed is so blazingly fast, and it can literally lock the focus of this. If you have this kind of thing, like 20 meters away, the lens going to focus this part, this ribbon, like this thing. That lens can focus up to that. So that lens is so freaking like razor. It can lock the focus up to the tiniest thing in the open air. I personally used it. I was shocked when I was able to lock the focus of a leaf from the roof which was falling and I wasn't able to see. I was shooting bird and camera locked that leaf and I was like, why it's locking on something which I cannot see? When I zoomed the lens, I was shocked because the lens was locking on that leaf which I wasn't able to see in the viewfinder, but lens locked it. So lens was designed for tiniest of thing to lock the focus on, and it was of course high speed. This one is not. This is designed for average users, for guys like you, guys like me, who cannot afford those $10,000, $20,000 lens. So this lens is for us. It's a bargain. It's truly a bargain lens. And the thing is, okay, how fast the autofocus of this lens is on different camera bodies. And this is the most interesting question. I use this lens on D780, D500, and today I tested with D4S. D500. D500 and this lens is an ideal combination for bird, sports, action, wildlife photography. Ideal combination. Walaikum Assalam, Nayyar, how are you, brother? So if you have D500 and if you have this lens, khalas, you are like 90% of the shots you can do, which you expect to spend like a lot of money, like from the $10,000 lens or B5. So you can do almost 90% of the job from this lens and from D500. Why D500? Why not D4S? The reason is the D500 autofocus points are spread from this corner of the screen to this corner into the viewfinder. So the spread of the autofocus point, 153 autofocus points, and D500 is much more wider. It's much more wider, edge to edge of the viewfinder. So that's why I recommend to use this lens 200-500 5.6 with D500, because with D500 is designed for sports, action, wildlife. It's the most optimum solution that you can get to shoot. I shot birds, I shot some wildlife. I'm not much into wildlife, but yeah, I tried it. And I tried this lens with D780. It was slow with D780. With D500, it was fast. And even I checked with D4S, with this is D4S, the speed of autofocus acquisition of this lens, 200-500 on these two bodies, is exactly the same. No change. Mind you, the autofocus acquisition is different than autofocus tracking. The autofocus acquisition depends on the lens. The autofocus tracking depends on the camera bodies. Once you acquire the focus, which is the lens job, after that, camera body takes over and started tracking the subject into the viewfinder. So autofocus acquisition is lens characteristic, autofocus tracking, it's camera bodies. So if you have any of these camera bodies like D4, D4S, D3, or like not D3, like which one? D4, D4S, D3, D3S, D5. If you have these camera bodies, or D500, which one? Yeah, D500. If you have D500, you are good to go with these lenses, and the best combo. For me, why I recommend more D500 than D4S. See, this is the thing. D4S 16 megapixel, right? D500 is 20 megapixel. But when you scale up its number of pixels per square millimeter to full frame, it's equal to 45 megapixels. So you're talking about more detail, more translation information on D500 than in compared to D4S. You get more detail if you are going to shoot with D500, not from D4S. So if you are shooting bird photography or some animals which are far, alright, that's where you need this D500. Couple this lens with this and you are good to go. And by the way, don't multiply that 1.5 factor with this lens. People are multiplying, oh, if I'm going to use D500, I will be getting this 200 to 500. So with D500 multiply by 1.5 is 300 to 750. So I am turning this 200 to 500 into 300 to 750 mm if I'm using with D500. No. That's completely wrong. Any lens, that multiplication factor, you multiply it with this and comes up with those imaginary numbers. It has nothing to do with the real lens. Lens is a lens. It's 200 to 500. It always gives you the compression, the angle of view to 200 to 500 on any camera body. The problem is the camera itself having a smaller sensor, so it captures the smaller area of that lens which is projected upon it. So that's the issue. It has nothing to do with the lens. Your information coming out from this lens is always 200 to 500. It never goes to 300 to 750 if you are using a D500. Whoever says you this is totally wrong, totally garbage, and he doesn't know how camera works or how lens works. I'm very dead serious about that topic. Don't get this misconception that your lens magically turn into 300 to 750 if you are going to use a crop sensor. No sir, no. That's not the work. That's not the way things work. So anyways, we are going to stick with this. I highly recommend this lens for bird action wildlife photographers. I shot some portraits with this lens. Autofocus, it's average. Of course, you are paying 1300, not 13,000. So, it comes with the lock. So you can lock at 200. So now we're going to change it. It's not going to change. Okay, that's it. I thought to share with you my feedback. I will be uploading this video on YouTube and I will be dropping down the link of the images that I took from this image, so you will get to know how the lens is. It's really very sharp in lens, and the VR is second best. It used to be the top VR in my view, but now is the second best. Who is the number one when it comes to VR? We'll talk about in some other videos. Not today. When it comes to how can I say this? Well, when it comes to the average gear, average price, which on average users can afford, this is still one of the best lens you can go with. I have no regret. By the way, Sigma discarded that 150 to 600 and they released a new one which is 60 to 600. That was better than 150 to 600. This should tell you something. I'm glad I sold that 150 to 600 contemporary. And if that lens was so good, then why Sigma released 60 to 600? Think about that. It's better to go with one good product rather than hit and trial, release another one. No, this product's not good, release another one. This is what Sigma does. People ask me why I hate Sigma. Sigma has severe quality control issues. We'll talk about Sigma some other time. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys some other time.